Hey guys, how you doing? It's Mr. Fuzzy Lego, and welcome back to our custom Lego minifigure video. And today I'm showing you 7 minifigures from SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. And in this video I have SpongeBob himself, Patrick, Mr. Krabs, Sandy Cheeks, Squidward Tentacles, Gary the Snail, and Plankton. Now I made these characters because I was really excited to play Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. I love the original game, and SpongeBob has always been one of my favorite cartoons. And it's also pretty popular in this year because there's also SpongeBob Sponge on the Run coming out later this year in August. So you can kind of think of this as a double early showcase because it's also for that movie, and I've incorporated lots of elements from that into these figures as well, and you'll see that a bit later. But yeah, this is mostly a Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated video, and without further ado, let's get started. Alright, kicking off this video with SpongeBob Squarepants, of course, and there's really not a whole lot of SpongeBob custom minifigures out there, at least not to this potential of like his full customizing potential, because he has all these different like sock details and like the tie and all like the belt pieces area. But you can see this with this figure. I decided to go with all these figures really, but more of a simplistic route. So there's no outlining on this despite being a cartoon character, but like besides a few outlines that I did just make it look a bit, pop out a bit more. But you can see it's mostly in three-dimensional pieces. Like, you can see his eyes, his nose, and his little dimples. They are all three-dimensional. And that's just a decision I thought would be really cool because it is more of like the CG, like SpongeBob, for instance, has those different, like, three-dimensional pieces that look really distinct. So I thought that would be really cool. And he has all the different belt detailing and the socks, too, which came out really nice. Really straight lines on my part. And you can see on the back too, there is more of the belt detailing, accurate to Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, as well as some of the different hand details. All look really nice. I think this just came out to be a really cool figure, and it is made just like official SpongeBob minifigures. You can just pop off the head here and reveal like the whole figure underneath. It's really nothing simple, just a base with some painted areas, just to you know, illustrate where the torso covers it. And they're not clean at all. They're just kind of there as markers behind it because you don't really see it underneath the headpiece. So we can just put this back on and end off this segment. I would say there's accessories for him, but I really don't. The only thing I have that's close is this spatula from Lego Friends. It looks okay, but it's not the official shape or piece, so I guess this, if you want to say this is a golden spatula, but not really. But other than that, that's it for SpongeBob Squarepants. We can go on to the next figure. Next up is SpongeBob's best friend, Patrick Starr, and he also is a very simplistic looking figure, but very nice in the long run. You can see I did use Lego's base, like the headpiece that was molded years ago, and I did include some three-dimensional eyes and three-dimensional eyebrows. I think those were the most influential parts. And he also has a tongue and his mouth down there. That looks pretty cool. And he's got a three-dimensional belly button. That's really it for all the sculpting bits. There's also not really any dots on the back of it. However, I think that just came out really good. But the main draw of this figure is his legs. I decided to give him like short, like the short posable legs rather than full tall legs. I think because he is shorter than Squidward, for instance, but also taller than SpongeBob. So I think this is a good leg piece for him. And it also just looks really good. And I did paint like the flower designs onto those shorts. As you can see, those look really cool, especially on the front and the back. I think this just came out really nice. No really accessories for Patrick. Maybe a watermelon would have been cool. However, I just don't have any, so I don't even think Lego even makes a watermelon piece. But if they do, I could have used that. But this is a good figure for now, and it's bothering that he's not totally straight. So yeah, that's about it for Patrick. I don't know what else to say. I would show you that his legs. I can't really take this off because my hand's gonna block the light here, but you can see that his legs, like the painting does go to the insides, and they're easily posable and everything, just like most of my minifigures these days. And he's also got this ring around like the hip piece. It's got like an outline around it that came out really nice. And yeah, that's about it for Patrick. So yeah, that's about it for him. So we're gonna go on to the next. It's not bothering it. I gotta fix it first for me to continue. That's about it for Patrick. We're gonna go on to, oh, come on. That's it for Patrick. Next figure. The third playable character in the game is Sandy Cheeks, and this just came out pretty good. This would be my favorite figure if it weren't for three things. Okay, so the detail around her arms is okay, but it's not perfect. It's tricky to paint onto white paint sometimes, and the reason why I did white paint is because on normal white arms, it just would completely come off. It was no good. The tail also came out okay. It could have been better, but it kept breaking off, and that was just pissing me off because I said off twice, but who cares? Oh my gosh, it was such a pain to make this, honestly. I hate this tail. But it's there nonetheless. And the third thing is this lasso. She kind of needs a lasso because in Battle for Bikini Bottom, it's like what she uses to attack. However, this is just an old piece of mine. It doesn't even sit in the hand anymore. It's just like for some reason I guess maybe someone chewed it or something, but it's an old piece, and so this just is not like it barely holds in her hand. Like if I put it in her hand, it's just gonna slide off. Like it's just insane. Like it doesn't fit anymore. So this is just kind of disappointing that I lost it. It's disappointing that this doesn't fit anymore, but I still have her lasso. It's still here. Just it's not very usable anymore. So maybe I can just kind of choke her. But other than that, she's an okay figure. Also, ignore the change if anything happened with the background. I just kind of rearranged this so that it would be a bit easier to record, but it is pretty nice. She also is the same height as Patrick, so I did give her the short legs that I gave to Patrick as well, just a different pair of them, obviously. She does have like some three-dimensional elements, and her headpiece, which is the original Lego head that I had to purchase, that is smaller than I thought it was, honestly, but I did give three-dimensional eyes and a nose to that as well. It's inside the bubble head because it's just how the helmet works, so it's not going to break or it's not going to get dirty or anything. But I did put this flower piece on there, and I had to like paint it from like behind and then put it on, which was pretty fun. She's got her like patch right down here that's painted, as well as all these different buttons and a zipper, obviously, and yeah, the glow-up boots are glossed. I don't really know what else to mention for this figure. Here's the back and the atrocious tail that I'm trying not to show because it's just making me want to vomit. But I'm sure it looks fine, but there's some things about it that just really bother me. But other than that, she came out to be a pretty cool figure, aside from her shortcomings. But she's really nice to display regardless. So that's it for Sandy Cheeks. Here's Squidward Tentacles, and he is probably the first figure I'm going to explain more of the movie-based Squidward. Of course, SpongeBob Squarepants, Sponge on the Run. I would have made him based on his Battle for Bikini Bottom attire, where he has like a bandage on his head, and also the bandage covering his nose. But I wanted a more standard figure, and this is where the Sponge on the Run figure comes in. He has a really darkish bluish green in that movie, according to some of the trailers that I've seen. So I decided to base him on a turquoise color that I found, which I think was a good fit for him, and it does look pretty good as Squidward's base color. So I did paint over the head as well as the arms and the legs too, and they have their own tentacle details down here. You can see that, I moved this, whoops. See that he has a line that goes all the way down to the leg, and also these tentacle pieces, which aren't in the right places, I don't think, but they get the job done, which making it look pretty cool. It's got all the different circles down there, and nothing on the back of the legs, honestly. But the main circles on here look really nice. He also has dark blue arms, and that's just because I couldn't find. I don't paint my arms, in case you didn't know. So I didn't want to actually scrape that off. So I left it as a dark blue arm. I think it came out pretty good. And he does have some painting details down there on the torso to represent his shirt, obviously, with some wrinkles. And the back of the shirt also looks really nice with some more lines and wrinkles and everything. But the head has three-dimensional details, as well as these 3 lines and a bunch of dots that run along the top of the head, which look pretty cool. And he's got his nose, his mouth, his eyes, he's got eyelids, and that's really it for Squidward. He does have a clarinet, because he needs one, but it's just this. It's not very special in the slightest bit, so I'll see if I can put it on just like so. Boom. Clarinet doesn't really work, but who cares? I don't think he's really going to be using it much anymore. But that's it for Squidward. So we're going to remove this and reverse everything that I just did, and that's it for Squidward. Rounding off the main cast, in my opinion, is Mr. Krabs, and of course I gave him some money, and I think it's upside down in his hands. So, and there we go, the money is correctly in his hand, and that little struggle gives me a great excuse to talk about his hands. His hands are those, fly monster lobster claw things that were in a random series spin figure. Of course, they only came on 1 minifigure, so I had to buy 2 different kinds of the hands, and those were from International, so this was kind of an expensive figure to make. The hands were $10 to get, which is a lot of money, definitely. But mainly this is just kind of old stuff like this. This old head is the same one that I've had from whenever I was a kid, so I just kind of took it and painted it and made it look really nice. And I guess I'll remove the money if I can do it a second time, just so that we can go over the figure. I took his hand off, whoopsie. Just so we can go over the figure in a better way, and I can't seem to get this off. I mean, I don't think it's really going to break the sculpts, because it really only thing that's sculpted on here is his nose, and that's pretty good. But yeah, his hands are quite big when you look at it, just because of the lobster claws, so maybe they're not totally accurate, but this was just a very cool piece to use for Mr. Krabs, so I think this is just worth it in that regard, because this is just really cool in my opinion. But yeah, I did give the 3-dimensional belt buckle and the little thing he has down here. His eyes are also really nice, with his teeth, which are grinning. And if you turn this around, he's got more detailing on here. The belt is 3-dimensional, as well as electrical tape. But that's really about it for this figure. The thing that's kind of confusing for me is the leg choice. I did give him short legs, and instead of like painting the whole shoe area like I did, I just painted this little line around the legs to represent his little toe feet things. And it looks fine. I mean, it juts out a little bit, but I don't really know what else to do. I guess I could give him studs or something, but I've kind of grown past that stage where I really only use that for very certain figures, and I don't like using it on minis, so... this was just what I went with, and I was alright with it, so I said whatever. His arms make up for it because they're really cool, honestly. Moving down to the tinier characters, here is of course Sheldon J. Plankton, and the first thing you're probably going to notice about him is that he's fragile, but not only that, his scale is a little off. Like, his antennae are really big, based on his body, and he's a bit taller than he should be, or bigger in that rather. And that's just because I really don't care. Like, I love using practical Lego pieces, honestly, if I can get away with it. Like, for instance, the arms would have been really big, so I just decided to sculpt those on, but like the antenna, for instance, are like Lego, like the seaweed pieces that I had to kind of cut up and rearrange. So that came out pretty cool. But yeah, his scale is a little weird, and like if I compare him to like Mr. Krabs, of course Mr. Krabs, you can see that he is pretty tall compared to Mr. Eugene Krabs, but that's just because I don't really care. Scale isn't that important to me unless it's something I really care about, but this just came out to be like a really fragile figure, and honestly the hardest one in this whole set to make because of how many times I had to make it. Like, for instance, here this is the fourth one, here's the third one, it broke. I almost didn't even make a Plankton because of this one, but I decided to give it another go one night and just did this in 3 hours, and here he is. It's not the best, but for my work, I think it's fine, and even the eyebrows are having a bit of issue right now, so I gotta be very careful when filming this, because if it breaks on camera, I'll be very disappointed. But it seems to be holding up in place, and that's all that matters. But yeah, the villain of SpongeBob, really, not really, kind of, he's a mixed case, but hey, you love him, and I love him. Who doesn't like Plankton? But that's it for Plankton. Let's go on to the final minifigure. Finally, one of my favorite SpongeBob characters, simply because it's supposed to represent a cat in the underwater world, is Gary the Snail. And this is just kind of put together. I mean, I really like the way it came out. It's very clean and very, like, simple looking. I didn't actually, like, sculpt around the shell pieces because these are the original printed pieces that I had whenever I was younger. And because they hold up fine. I mean, they're not exactly accurate. Like, this side is supposed to be, like, reversed, but this side is accurate according to how it's supposed to look, and I just bumped his eyes. Sorry about that, Gary. But yeah, you can see his eyes are made out of the cherry piece. It's mostly the same build from like the original sets. However, I didn't really use that clip piece in the middle. I kind of used this other piece, which came out really good as well. Like, it works, so I think it came out coolly. I have to sneeze, which is going to be very fun on camera. But yeah, I just kind of painted him in like the light blue color, not the same color that Squidward is. It's a little bit lighter than that. But my own custom color that I used for Gary, and if I put him next to SpongeBob, because of course, just like Plankton, like you have to pair him next to the main character that is represented with him, kind of that made no sense. But anyway, Gary. I like his eyes, I like his eyelids. I think it just came out really nice. But actually, one of my favorite parts of this figure is the little green slime outline that goes around it. And also, this is kind of annoying. I know that this video has lots of me moving the whole stage around just because of lighting issues. But anyway, this just came to be a really cool figure. I really like it. It's kind of weird to have it like my favorite, especially because Patrick and like SpongeBob are so good, but Gary, I like Gary, so I'm really happy I got to make him. And that is it for all my figures from SpongeBob Squarepants, more specifically Battle for Bikini Bottom and Sponge on the Run. So go ahead and wrap up this video. That's it for this video, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this, you can always leave a like down below and a comment or two if you're so inclined. You can also check out my social media pages down below in the description, as well as commission information if you're interested in ordering one. But that's going to be it for this video, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.